You look great.
This should be played at high volume.
Welcome to Outta Pocket. Here's your host, Michael Davis.
It's time to get out of pocket on this TGI Friday for Tobacco Road Sports Radio. I'm your host, Michael Davis. I'm joined by one of my co-hosts from the Cat Cave, Shannon Smith. I am joined by Carsen, and I'm sure all of his Carsenites are going to run wild in the comment section today. I saw a few of them sharing on Instagram. Shout out to Isabella, who shared as well and tagged the Instagram, and joined by producer Desmond Johnson. And we have breaking news. I thought we were going to lead off with the news that broke last night, but instead we're going to lead off with the breaking news that's dropped here in the last hour and in the last few minutes. So Duke's top two players, Jared McCain and Kyle Filipowski, are now leaving Duke University and entering the NBA draft. Carsen, you and I are Duke fans. Are you surprised? Did you see this coming that McCain's leaving after his freshman year and Filipowski's leaving after his sophomore year?
Partially. I knew that Flip was going to go. I don't think that there was really any reason for him to stay anymore. I thought his time had run. And I honestly just didn't feel like he was good for locker room morale anymore. And it just seemed like he wasn't happy most of the time. Like he was playing upset, like he didn't really want to be there. So I'm glad he's gone. McCain, I'm honestly surprised. I thought he was going to stay. I don't think he's ready for the NBA. And I was just in an argument about this. I'm in a Duke group chat. I think his greatest strength is his off-ball movement and off-ball shooting, but he's a small guard. So like out of a McCain, you would really want more of like on-ball creation, on-ball playmaking, stuff like that. And he doesn't really have that. He doesn't have a great first step. He's not great at manufacturing these looks for himself. He's got to be running off screens and stuff like that. So I thought he should have stayed and developed his on-ball game a little more. But I'm happy for him. You know, he's going to be a lottery pick. And hopefully he gets that bag, you know?
Yeah, and I've seen in mock drafts where they projected that McCain and Filipowski would leave Duke and enter the NBA draft. I've seen late lottery picks, and I've seen just past the lottery picks once you get into the playoff teams. Shannon, what's your initial reaction to McCain and Filipowski leaving Duke?
I'm actually kind of mad. I was looking forward to tearing y'all heads up one more year, but nah, it's all good.
Can you mute his mic real quick, Des?
Man, he's cooking. Let him go. Let him go.
But on a serious tip, though, I knew Flip was going, and I had it in my notes. So I'm kind of mad that he already broke. I had it in my notes because when you're going to ask who else could leave Duke, I was going to say Flip was going to leave because he's a 13 overall pick. Now, McCain, he was all rookie in the ACC. Dude shot crazy from three, 41%, and put up 14 points a game. He played very good balls, proven shot maker. He is a small guard, like Carsen did say, but they're comparing him to the young cat in Toronto, Quigley, I believe, is who they're saying that he's like.
That's a terrible player comp.
Which I think is messed up. You know, that was kind of weird to me. I'm like, nah, don't do that to that kid. That kid's already been traded so many times and since 2020 when he came in the league. So don't do him like that. But hey, there may be foreshadowing. Who knows? But with him being a lottery pick, you know, that's kind of an offer you can't refuse. What's up, Peyton? That's kind of an offer you can't refuse with him being a lottery pick. I'm at first I was thinking he was going to test the water because he didn't get an agent just yet. So he may be putting his foot out there, but I can't remember what the deadline is for signing an agent. But I think he's still early because I think that's probably June, right? I mean, no, May. May is the deadline for him to when they sign agents in order to fully declare. So he might not, but I think he's in it for the long haul. Congrats to both those young guys, although you're not coming back next year to get some. But congrats, man, for real.
Well, a year ago, I thought Kyle Filipowski was gone. So for him to come back and be a part of this Duke team to help Jared McCain, I think Jared McCain put the team on his back for several games, and I'm sad to see them go. But overall, this is a weaker NBA draft class. Des, I know you're not going to shed a tear about not seeing McCain or Flip next year.
I care less, to be honest. If they stayed or went. Flip, I feel like he probably should have left last year because he kind of got exposed this year playing out of position. And I don't know how a dude who had work on both his hips in the offseason got slower. Like he looked like he just, to Carson's point, he just didn't have a fun year at Duke. Plus you have 6 freshmen coming in, and I'm pretty sure they're not expecting to come off the bench. So I think David Glenn had a post on Twitter yesterday, the day before. He keeps track of these things, and he was saying that literally Duke had to clear like 4 roster spots to make this work or something to that effect. It was before McCain had declared, before Flip had declared. And I think we all knew that Flip was leaving after this year, especially with what's coming in. McCain, we kind of felt like he played himself into position to go in the first round. It's kind of a similar situation with RJ Davis. I'm kind of waiting for him to declare he's leaving too, because it's a very weak NBA draft coming up in June. I've seen some people say it's the weakest NBA draft in the past 20-something years, going all the way back to like the 2000 draft with Kenyon Martin and those guys, where Stromile Swift, and just a horrific draft. And this one too, I was thinking about it. I'm like, is Zach Edey like the guy in this draft, or like who's the number one prospect in this? You haven't really heard the buzz of like the kids that are coming in this upcoming year, which kind of tells you.
Overseas guy. There'll probably be some guy overseas is probably going to be
some foreign kid.
I've heard Nikola Topic is up there, Alex Sarr, Ron Holland, Stephon Castle,
Reed Shepard,
Lingen from UConn, Isaiah Collier. Those are some of your top 10 picks.
It's kind of my point. And we talked about this on franchise players last night, where the women's game actually has stars like that we all know. We can name 3 or 4 women college basketball players right now, but in the men's game, it's almost like the portal and NIL and some other stuff. It's made it hard to keep track of where players are. And now, with players leaving, I don't think this is a surprise to anyone that McCain and Filipowski are leaving. And Mac Davis mentions here, and we had it in the rundown, Mark Mitchell's in the transfer portal. So
yes, finally. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad.
JP Mundy, hearing Desmond say somewhat nice things about a Duke player's strange and unsettling behavior. Like I said, my Facebook persona is completely different from Tobacco Road persona. Like I can sit here and be what's the word? Objective towards these teams, and I am. When Duke has a good team, I'm the first to be like, yo, that Duke team scares me. Like, but they haven't had that since 2019, like with the Zion group. So I just tell it how it is. Like I don't really have an issue with the Duke players. I have an issue with the Duke fans.
You're telling me that Paulo Banchero team didn't scare you at all?
Who?
Paulo Banchero and that
scare
team?
Me? No, because we could match up with them. The 2019 Duke team was just like
powerhouse.
Yeah, I mean, you had 3 guys who were going to go in the top 5 of the NBA draft. Like that's a little bit different than worrying about, Banchero, who was a good player himself, and the rest of those guys are just kind of mismatched parts. I'm not really concerned as long as Duke keeps doing what they're doing and bringing in large batches of freshmen with the way college basketball is today. I'm not really that worried about Duke, to be honest. I feel like they're always going to be playing 25-year-olds going forward, and I would imagine Shire's going to have to change this around. But we talked about this last night. I don't know how easy it is to transfer into Duke. That might be why they're not really using the transfer portal. It might be really hard, although
it is very hard.
Wake Forest is doing it, so that might not be a good excuse. So I don't know.
I mean, especially, when you think about, all those UNC students, and they can get into UNC very easily. Duke is a prestigious school. It is hard to get in Duke University. You're seeing comments.
I went to the NBA, blown out some shoes and went to the NBA. You're going to talk about prestigious and Zion going out there acting daggum fool in the NBA. You better shut your mouth down for my money.
Watch out, Shannon. He's getting slimmer. He's getting healthier.
Finally, it took him 4 years to figure it out. Yeah.
Zion's play. I want Zion to do well in the NBA. I'm talking about him going out here and sleeping with all them women and not going to Houston and making a fool of himself. That's what I'm talking about. He should learn some stuff from Duke. You talking about prestige and growing men and coached by Mike Krzyzewski, and he going out there showing his old backside like that? No, stop.
I mean, you let loose a 19-year-old kid in New Orleans. Like, with money. What they think
Right.
was going to happen?
Get
Like,
out of here.
I'm happy.
That's not a
I was in
Duke thing.
Zion's corner. Like, I'm glad that he's finally making it to the end of a regular season and that we can actually see him in the playoffs, because I do think he's a great talent. But I've always said he's the size of an NFL left tackle. Like, he can't be that size at age 30. Like, he's going to have to get smaller, or the lower body injuries are going to just keep piling up on him. And if he's getting smaller, good for him.
And that could be something that DJ Burns has to work on if he wants to make an NBA career, because he's on the heavier side. You've seen the comments pour in. Peyton was on the show earlier this week. Mac, JP Bundy, Shelby. You guys can be a part of the show. Comment on our YouTube channel. Get a shout out just like those people did. But the other news that happened overnight was Kentucky looks like they have replaced John Calipari with Mark Pope. I got the privilege to be on Franchise Players last night with Desmond Johnson. We had the guys from ECB, Josh and Peyton Burton. Josh is a huge Kentucky fan, so I couldn't help but crack a smile when I saw that the best job in college basketball has to settle for BYU coach Mark Pope. And everybody else are like, nah, we're good. Nah, we'll stay here. Nah, we'll stay at Baylor. The guy at UConn, Dan Hurley, just won back-to-back titles. He's like, there's no way I'm going to Kentucky. All right. Saw what y'all did to John Calipari here at the very end. So that, I think that proves my point that Kentucky is not the best job in college basketball. People will have left for Duke and UNC in a heartbeat. We talked about that extensively last night on Franchise Players. It's still on Tobacco Road if you guys want to go back and watch it.
Yeah, it's on the homepage right now. Matter of fact, we did it last night so we could have all day Friday for it to sit out there, and some clips are going to start dropping here in a little bit from it too. Great show last night. Shout out to Peyton and Josh. But yeah, Kentucky's not the best job in the country. Like, I think we left that conversation kind of like, I think we had gotten them to a point where they had admitted that it was Kentucky and Carolina were kind of like right there. And then the only thing holding Duke back was we haven't seen them win anything without K yet. That was really the only thing. Other than that, it's really it. I mean, Duke is 40 years of Coach K. Like, that's it. Carolina, Kentucky, these others have been multiple coaches that have come in and succeeded over a 50, 60-year period. Carolina's is more in-house. Kentucky goes out for big fish. They didn't get a big fish today.
No, it is Mark Pope.
No.
Yeah. Carsen, do you have thoughts about Mark Pope?
Shannon so much he left.
Yeah, for real.
There he is.
Oh, he came back.
There, he's back.
Yeah, I think
You got lucky.
I've seen a lot of negative things about Mark Pope. I think it's just a little too early to tell. Mark Pope has a 110-51 record since he's been at BYU, and he's in a pretty tough Big 12 conference. My thought is this is how things start. Yeah, Peyton is not having fun.
No, he's not very happy about this.
I'm actually glad I'm here because I haven't got to talk about this on Out of Pocket, and I have some thoughts about it. But let me get through Mark Pope first. So this is kind of how you're supposed to start, in my opinion. Coach K went 73-59 at Army before he got to Duke. Roy Williams was a third assistant coach before he went to Kansas, and then UNC, obviously. So I just think that we shouldn't just give up on Mark Pope yet. I don't think he's gonna be a disaster. Kentucky as a program has already been heading downhill, and they needed a change. Shannon must not really.
I don't know what's
like
going
what
on.
we're talking about.
He does not care for
Now, about the best head coaching jobs in the nation, Kentucky is not up there, as we can tell. The two best coaching jobs, and I think it's pretty much unanimous, is UNC and Duke. And those are the two best coaching jobs. UNC because they constantly get good recruits, but then they also have that continuity of them staying for all 4 years or 3 years. And so it's kind of just like a coach's dream to be able to have that continuity and everybody playing on the same page while they also are getting good players. It's not like they're getting scrubs. And then Duke is, I would say, a little harder to coach at because there's so much turnover, and you're getting
Whoa! You said Duke?
Yeah.
in terms of roster. The roster turnover.
Okay, I was about to say.
Oh, yeah.
Coach K's been there 40 years.
No. Roster turnover. There's so many new players coming out all the time. And yes, they are all 5-stars, but there's no real way to build continuity, we've built a brand, obviously, but with UNC, you had RJ Davis and Baycott, and that was like their brand while they were there. We don't have that, so UNC is, I think, an easier coaching job than Duke, but they're the two most attractive coaching jobs, in my opinion.
You got to take Duke out and put Kansas in, because Kansas has the best home court advantage in the country. It's a similar situation where you don't leave Kansas for another job unless it's to Carolina. You don't leave, or you retire there. That's pretty much it. Like you don't leave there. Vice versa, you don't leave Carolina for another job. With Duke, again, they have all the stuff, but we have not seen them win anything of merit without Coach K sitting on the bench. For the past.
That's because he hasn't left. You're saying
either way,
nobody leaves Kansas, nobody leaves Duke.
No, Bill Self's been there like 15 years. Roy Williams was there before him for 15 years. Like people come and go from these spots, but Duke hasn't had to go through that yet. It's the point. Like we have to see them go through what these other schools did to get to the level where you're trying to put them. That's basically what I'm saying. Like, because we haven't seen Duke go through this yet. We're watching it now, like in real time. So I can't put Duke ahead of Kansas when we already know Kansas has succeeded with multiple coaches over multiple decades, and they take care of their coaches too. And they do the same stuff Duke does with recruiting and everything else. I just can't put Duke in front of Kansas when it comes to this. Nor could I put Kentucky. Like to your point, Kentucky's really falling off. I don't normally do this on Out of Pocket. Usually it's something we save for Believe in Panthers. But there was where'd it go? This comment from JP Mundy about Hubert Davis.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we messed.
They hired a dude with more head coaching experience than Hubert Geronimo Eduardo Davis. I'll see myself out coming to rescue Dez. Peyton Burton comes in with Pope has 0 tournament wins, no regular season titles or conference tourney titles. So what experience did he have more than Hubert Davis, who has been to a national championship, a Final Four, and has won an ACC regular season title in his first 3 years? I'm just curious. I just want to know, because this whole poking fun of Hubert Davis, that slander's got to stop. My man has proven his point. He's actually a really good coach.
I've had enough of that too, because they've sat back here and they dogged that man after his second year when they didn't make it. It's called building the daggum program. I've talked about that with a lot of UNC fans that despised and dogged him and said, get rid of that man after we went to a national championship after a turnaround year. And that's what kills me the most. But to my question, guys, how many blue bloods are there now? Did we settle on how many blue bloods that we had?
Active? I would say 4.
How many was it?
I'd say 4. Carolina, Duke, Kansas, Kentucky. That's pretty much – and Kentucky.
Okay, so Kansas is one of them.
I mean, they just won a national championship 2 years ago against Carolina.
Now here's the thing is, I don't understand. You're saying that Duke hasn't proved that they can succeed without Coach K, but we've been to the Elite Eight.
Okay.
Been to the Final Four. We've won a ACC tournament. So like
okay. So
like I don't understand. You guys missed the tournament as the preseason number 1 seed. So if anything, I think that we've been just as successful as UNC has.
Kansas? No, not as Kansas.
As UNC has under our new coach.
Kansas has done everything you just said, and they won a national championship in the same stretch. Like it just. It's not a debate of whether or not it's Carolina or Duke. It's Duke or Kansas. That's the conversation. Like Carolina's already established themselves as a place that's one of the top coaching jobs in the country. With Duke, again, we don't know because only one dude has been there for 40 years. We don't know if that was a K thing or if it was a Duke thing. And we're finding out now. Now, give them a couple of years and we'll know, but it's too soon to say.
Your logic isn't adding up, though. We both have new coaches. We've both had basically the same amount of success, but it's
Carsen, the history before the new coaches is different. That's my point. You had one guy for 40 years. Carolina went through multiple guys over 40 years and had success with every single one, except for Matt Doherty. And even Matt Doherty, the recruiting class he brought in, won a national championship for Roy Williams 2 years later. Like, that's the point. It's not a matter of what they're doing right now side by side. The question is, what's the best coaching job today? And based off of previous history, you got to put Carolina ahead of Duke because we've seen it. There's a lineage. We know what it is. We know if a guy comes in and he understands the product, it's going to work. With Duke, We don't know that for sure yet because Shire's only been there for 3 years, and he's the only one we've seen outside of K. So we have to give it some time to see if it's going to work. That's my point. It's not a matter of what have the teams done in the 3 years together side by side. It's what happened before that. Like the other coaches that have been there, what did they do? How much success did they have? And the Carolina coaches have had more success. The Kentucky folks are trying to use the whole 5 coaches have won 5 titles or whatever, but they have had ebbs and flows throughout their entire 50, 60-year career. Carolina's not. So that's kind of where it's coming from. Is it the best job? What's surrounding you and what was there before you in place? We don't know yet for Duke, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt by putting them in the top 5.
So let's put this into like just our vernacular. Like if I was asked what's the best broadcasting job and I'm applying to places, and let's take Tobacco Road, for example. Like if I'm here, 10, 20 years, like I would consider that a good job because there's security there and we're still being successful in everything. If you changed out a new host every 6 months or every 15 years or whatever, instead of keeping one constant there, then I would be like, okay, there's job turnover. There's not a lot of job security. Duke had that job security with Coach K, even when there were times where Duke was a first-round exit. When Calipari got first-round exited, they're like, okay, we need to change right here. Okay, there's a little bit of difference in that. Now, we talked about this for an entire hour on franchise players. You can catch the whole debate back there, but wanted to touch real quick on another coach situation. So when it comes to the NBA, LeBron James is not a fan of all his coaches. We know that to be true. LeBron's tried to get every coach he's had fired. And now there's a rumor that LeBron's frustrated at Lakers coach Darvin Ham and doesn't want Ham to coach this team next season. So I wanted to bring it up to you guys. I'll bring it up to Carsen first, and then Des is a Lakers fan, so I'll get his comments after that. But do you expect Ham to coach this team next year? And if he doesn't, what do you think this says about LeBron trying to get the turnover when it comes to the coaching staff?
No, Ham will not be coaching this team next year. I think it would take the Lakers winning the title, which is not going to happen for Ham to come back next year. He's been a disaster. He doesn't know how to coach basketball. I don't know how he got the job. Like he's not a good coach at all. And we can look any basketball, like if you know anything about basketball, you can see it. The first thing that I noticed is he hasn't been playing Rui Hachimura like he should. Rui Hachimura was a huge part of the playoff push last year, and now he hasn't been playing until recently. I don't understand that. Yeah. Taurean Prince is not what this team needs to make a deep playoff push, and he's been starting. What is Darvin Ham like? I don't think he knows how to be a coach. He might be a double agent. I mean, he's actively killing the Lakers. This doesn't say anything about LeBron. And people are going to say things about LeBron, which I get. And I was gonna say I don't even think that's totally unwarranted. But this specific fire, when it happens, won't be about LeBron. It'll be about Darvin Ham not knowing how to coach basketball.
Honestly, it feels like LeBron's the coach. Like when you watch them in the huddle, LeBron is giving the plays out. He's the one that's like writing, telling people what to do or whatever. He's the one on the court that's doing it, which has kind of been his MO forever. But especially this year, I've noticed where Darvin Ham's standing outside the huddle. Like LeBron is writing up whatever they're doing. I wonder if they somewhere along the way tuned him out and just started playing for themselves. And because the Lakers have gotten hot, they're like 9-1 or something in the last 10 games. And I know they're in the 9th seed, but they're only half a game behind the 8th seed right now. And they're trying to, I don't know if they have enough time. I think they only have 2 or 3 games left. They were trying to get to that 6th seed. Yeah, I don't think they have enough time to get out of the play-in, but playing like this makes them really dangerous if they get out of the play-in tournament, because they would be, say they get out of the play-in tournament and they're the 8th seed, they're going to play either Denver or Minnesota or KC first round. And I don't know if any of those teams except for Denver is ready to take on a veteran Lakers team in a 7-game series. So it's weird, man. Like all the veteran teams are at the bottom, like in the play-in. The Suns are in the play-in. Like Kevin Durant's in the play-in. Steph Curry, Warriors are in the play-in. Like,
you know why they are? I mean, because they don't have teams around them.
Yeah, that big three concept I think is going to die with the Suns
Yes.
here, which it should have. It worked for a little bit, but I think that's gone away now. But yeah, I don't know if it matters if Darvin Ham is the coach or not, because I don't know who they can bring in, because I don't know what the roster is going to look like next year. To Carson's point, Rui was a great pickup last year, and they haven't really used him this year. It was mind-boggling. I don't understand it, but I don't think Darvin will be there next year either. But this changing coaches every 18 months isn't going to work for LeBron here on the back nine of his career.
Mm-hmm.
They started to put Curry in the starting lineup like lately, and that's helped their team out tremendously with him getting in the starting lineup instead of coming off the bench.
Well, it's like what Desmond said. It's Darvin's not even the coach anymore. It's LeBron. Darvin, I think the only thing Darvin is doing is substitutions, and like who's playing when they're playing. But even then, like, how much power does he really have over that? He's not calling the plays. He's not drawing them up. He's like, that's LeBron, you know?
Yeah. And I think Shelby mentioned that in our comments on our YouTube channel, that LeBron thinks he's the coach. And that's pretty much it. Like Darvin Ham just has a title at this point, and LeBron runs the show. But Des mentioned some of the play-in teams. We're going to find out who our play-in teams are. So we're going to run into that aged well here in the last couple minutes of the show. So for the East, we have Cleveland, Orlando, Indiana, and then Philly and Miami. So we're looking at the seeds 4 through 8 are up in the air. And then everything else in the West is aside other than New Orleans and Phoenix fighting for that 6th spot. The other will have to, earn their way in with the play-in tournament. So Shannon, I have to ask you, of these teams, which do you think avoid the play-in and get seeded 1 through 6?
I think Miami will do it because of the fact that they've been together the most. Philadelphia is getting healthy at the right time with Embiid coming back. But I think that Philadelphia will be more of a threat inside of the playoffs, though, because I think they'll get out of the play-in. And I got to be careful. The wind's going to blow. It might knock me out again. That's the reason why I've been having the trouble I've been having. But I would go ahead and say Miami is going to do it. I would say Miami will get that 4th seed, and they should be fine.
Awesome. Carsen, who do you think avoids the play-in tournament this year?
So I went through, just looked at their standings, looked at all their games, and honestly, I think everything is going to pan out the way it is, because I don't really see anybody losing both games. Everybody has relatively easy schedules, or at least 1 win, 1 loss, The only thing I saw, I think the 76ers are going to split their last 2 games. And I think the Heat are going to win their last 2 games, which will put them at the same record. They've played 4 times this year. They've split the series, and their win differential is 11, both of them. What happens? What's the tiebreaker? It's like you normally go to point differential, who's won by more points. Both of them in their 4 games have won by a total of 11 points.
Wow.
So I don't know what happens.
There's some weird tiebreaker they'll use, but yeah.
Now the thing is, if they're in the 7-8 seed, it doesn't really matter all that much, because they're both going in the play and they got to play each other. But like if one of them was in the 6th seed and one of them was in the 7th seed, I don't know what they would do, which I think is interesting.
So the question, Mike, was what NBA team will avoid the play-in this year? I'm looking in the West. It looks like the Suns may have a shot. Maybe to catch the Pelicans, but with 2 games left, they're a game back. That's the only one that I can see, because in the East, it looks pretty much wrapped up in terms of,
Philadelphia and Indy.
Just said the Pacers and 76ers were right there.
Orlando could easily drop to the 7 or 8 seed.
They're 4 and 6 in their last 10 games. They're kind of losing some steam. They might drop to the 6 maybe, but that'll still keep them out of the play-in.
I think they're playing like the Nets, which like that's the thing is we gotta look at strength of schedule, and most of these teams are playing like we got them playing the Raptors and the Nets and the Hornets and like teams that aren't gonna matter. So at that point, I think that's basically just an automatic win. So I really think that we know what the playoffs are going to look like right now.
Well, I said the Lakers were hot. They've lost their last 2 games. They've actually dropped to the 10th seed. The Warriors are the 9th now. They've won 3 straight, and they're 9-1 in their last 10 games. Go figure.
But I tell you,
It's all
Getting hot at the
jumbled
right
in right
time.
there. Yeah, it's all jumbled right there. 7, 8, 9, 10. I'd say the Suns have the best bet to do it, but I don't trust the Suns. I haven't trusted the Suns all year.
and you
I don't
should.
know. I think these teams are going to be in the play-in. I don't know if any of them are going to get out of it. I think they're all going to be there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes up this weekend as the NBA season draws closer to a close. Also, shout out the comments hopping in, Peyton peeping the A Guerrero here in the background. Have several wrestling posters, Lie, Cheat, and Steal. Matt going Viva la Raza. But yeah, I also have the wrestling podcast, Drop the Mic. It aired Thursday because of some technical difficulties on YouTube's part. Thank you, YouTube, for hosting Tobacco Road content, but it's there for your view and pleasure. Nate came on, Luke from Fantasy Faction, and Zach Colburn, who you've seen Zach several times on Out Pocket. We talked about WrestleMania, so that is available for demand. If you want more of that college basketball debate, you have a full hour on franchise players about it. But we got to get out of here. We got to go enjoy our weekend. For myself, Michael Davis, Shannon Smith, Carsen Williams, producer Desmond Johnson. This has been Out of Pocket with Michael Davis on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. And continue to enjoy your TGI Friday lineup right here and subscribe so you don't miss a thing.